Hi everyone, and welcome to my place. I promised so many people that we would start up the sewing school, and I just got a little bit lost in translation. Well, I got lost knee deep in petals and flowers, but anyway, I've hauled myself out of there, and you have asked if I could share this, and I must just say, this is Basics 101. I'm not a professional by any means, but I have been making my own clothes, frocks, dresses, trousers, tops, skirts, you name it, for probably 50 plus years. And when did I start making my own clothes? The day that my mother made me a dress and I said I didn't like it. She threw it at me and she said, right, well, you can make your own. So I jolly well did. I've had a lot of help from professionals, and after my mother forgave her for upsetting her, a lot of help from my mother. Now, I want to show you today how to make, in 2 hours, a simple little black frock. The reason I'm saying a little black dress is because we all love them. And look what you can do with the simple little black dress. If you can wear it to work, and if you get short and you're going out to dinner, it's just a matter of putting a little top on, and pearls never fail to lift and to give luster to the face. That's why I love them, and I think that's why Chanel had them. Okay, let's get rid of all of this, and let me just step back and show you what this little black dress looks like. Now, this is simple little dress. It's got a little bodice. It's got a bit attached to it. It's got a plain black back. And what I have done is I'm going to alter our pattern. I'll show you that pattern in a minute. I've actually put little ties up here where the bodice bit is so that I can let it in and out depending on how I am feeling. Look at that, neat and tidy. Perfect. Okay, so here is the pattern that we are going to be making. It's a simplicity pattern. It's a pattern that has been around for a very long time. This dress I love because it does three things. You can have a V-neck, you can have it long, you can have a scooped neck, or you can have something that's a little bit higher that comes up to here. From this basic pattern, you can do lots of things. Now, there's lots of fashion houses in here, many notes on all the different types of fabric of patterns that you can use to create your dress. As a tip from me, look for something that states easy, beginners, or under 2 hours, and that's exactly what this does. And it tells you, so from cutout to finish, that's all it's going to take. Now, for those looking for this pattern, I found this wonderful lady called Heather, and she's got a company called patternwalk.com. She has gone to a lot of trouble to find all of the old patterns that used to be. These old patterns are fantastic. Now, let me just get rid of that. Let me tell you what you're going to need. You're going to need your pattern, and I just want to share something with you. Okay, so looking at this pattern here, and then looking at this pattern here, there's nothing really much different except for there's some darts up the front, and the skirt has been gathered on, and you can have sleeves on it if you want. This one here is a very old retro from Butterick, 61 I think that it first came out. This pattern is very similar to this pattern insofar as you've just got your little bodice here. It's got the sleeves in the front are all in one hit, you do those, and then up into here, the skirt here, that is just gathered onto there. So from the very basic pattern, once you get something to fit you, you can walk miles with it. And the other patterns that are also very easy are, like this one here says under 3 hours. There's a little bit more involved in this pattern, but look at all the different things that you can do. So the multi-patterns are always the best patterns, I think. Anyway, right, get rid of all of these and let me just share how it all starts. A lot of talking, might feel like I'm all over the place. I don't mean to be all over the place. I just want to get as much information as I can out. Okay, so once you've got the pattern, and before you even start sewing, let me just tell you that the frock, this dress here is a knit, and it's a simple pull over the head dress. No zips, no darts, no buttons, nothing. So it's straightforward, great for us beginners or those in a hurry. Because we're using a stretch knit jersey fabric, now let me just go a little bit further here. Let me just go back a bit. When you get your pattern, the manufacturer has done an amazing job. On the back of the pattern, it will tell you what fabric to use. So this here, I've got like 6 different types of fabrics I can use with this, and it's always in the back here. So fabrics, cotton and cotton blends, you can use leatherette, you can use crepe, you can use knits, you can use just about anything. But look on the back and see what the manufacturer or the designer has to say. Also, it gives you the sizes. So we might as well talk about the sizes before we talk about this. Okay, so the multi patterns are the best. So this one here, hold on, let me just get rid of that there. Okay, we have, the pattern comes in multi sizes, 6, 8, 10 and 12. Sometimes they go 12, 14, 16 and 18. And it's just a matter of, and I've got all of this information that you can have a look at the notes, but Simplicity provide a really great gauge on how to find the right size. Because you might be a size 12 at the top, a size 10 at the waist, and a size 14 or 16 at around your hips. They show you where to measure, and they also show you how to gauge out what to get your perfect size. The back of the pattern also tells you how much fabric you need, plus it will tell you if you need anything else like interfacing or how much cotton. If it needs a zip, it'll tell you the zip. So it's pretty much a paint by numbers. Have a good read, and then it's just a matter of going through the whole thing. Now, the other things that you're going to need is, and I'll go back to this, mine's a stretch knit, so I use ballpoint needles. The reason I use the ballpoint needles is because they make sewing so much easier, and they're really sharp, and they're little rounded needles, so they go in and out of the fabric and they don't pull or lift like some needles do. You also need very sharp scissors or dressmaking scissors. These I'm not going to use today because I've just decided they're just too heavy. So every now and again, I bunch out myself really good scissors, and I just want you to know that I never use those scissors for cutting paper. Cutting paper is just going to blunt the edge, the cutting edge of your scissors. So if you've got brand new scissors that usually cost a little bit more than ordinary kitchen scissors, just make sure that you don't use them for anything else. I also like these little scissors here. These are fantastic, and they're just like little spring-loaded things, and if you've got to clip off little do notches or whatever, or cut off little threads, these are fantastic. I also like little fine scissors that mean I can get into the notches, which I'll show in due course. You'll also need some pins and a pin cushion. I've got one, plus this here is called dressmaker's chalk, and it comes in 3 colors. You can also get pens, but I actually prefer the chalk because you can just wipe that off. So you need that, and because we're going to be doing ties and we're going to have to turn fabric in, you're going to need a knitting needle, and I don't go far without a straight ruler because you never know when you're going to need it. Okay, so and also you'll need matching thread. I always buy these in 2 so that I've always got plenty on hand. Moving forward, the pattern. When you buy your pattern, where's one? Let me just open this. When you buy your pattern, you open it up and it's got instructions. Sometimes there's 1 page of instructions, sometimes there's 2 pages of instructions. And when you look at this, look at the front here, there's usually numbers, or letters. So this is dress A, dress B, dress C, dress D, and there's A again. So you can see it off the person wearing it. And I think that things always look different when they're not on the person. So then when you open your pattern, you'll see A, B, C, D. So that's the front, and then it will show you what it looks like on the back. So there's A at the front, there's A at the back, there's B at the front, there's B at the back, and you can have it long or short, or they will also give you the pattern pieces to bring this up just a little bit here, which can be quite attractive depending on what you want to achieve. The other thing that the pattern shows you is, okay, so or in here you've got pattern piece 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So down here you see the corresponding numbers. So in here we've got bodice 1, dress 1, or dress bodice 1. So there's your bodice. Where's my bodice 1? There's my bodice 1. Where is my bodice 1? Oh, where's my bodice 1? Where's my bodice 1? Wait, we'll come back to that. It's in here somewhere. It's in here. But so there's bodice 1. Oh, it isn't bodice 1. Oh, stupid me. Okay, so when you look at this, see, this is mistakes that you need to know. So see that bit there? That is that bit there. That and that are there and there, but everything, it tells you everything. So bodice 1 is A, B, C, and D. So there's your A, B, C, and D, which now tells me that the bodice for A, B, C, and D are they're all the same. So when you go to get into your pattern, you've got to look for the bits that the numbers that respond to here. Bodice 2 sides, there they go there. Bodice 3 is a side, bodice 4 is a side. And then you also need for this interfacing and things like that, but we won't worry about that at this stage. Also, so we'll do that bit first with the pattern. When the pattern comes, it comes like this. Now, hopefully you've already decided what size you are. So here and I'll get into that in a minute. So when the pattern comes, it comes like this. Big bit of paper. Don't be frightened. Don't be frightened at all. Because this pattern, I don't get rid of all of that. I'll get rid of that there. This pattern is multiple sizes from a 6, 8, 10 and 12. So what the manufacturer has done is laid out all of the bits that you will need for version A, B, C or D. It's multi-size. So when you look down here, so there's the sleeve. This is the sleeve for dress B and C. So going back to this, if that was what I wanted to make, dress B and C, it's got sleeves in it. Now it's either got long sleeves, short sleeves, or it's got long sleeves. So when I looked into here, I know that this is a lot, it tells me that I'm going to need sleeves. So you just go and look for the sleeve there, which is sleeve for dress B and C. And then you go and you look at, and I'll turn this around. I know this is a lot of mucking around, but it'll all make sense in a minute. Let me just pull this over so that you can see it. Okay, so it's multi-fitting. So size 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 and 18. What you need to do is to go through, work out how many pieces you need and then cut everything out so that we can get the fabric and start laying it out. I think I've given you enough now, so let's just have a breather, have a cup of tea, and I'll be back in a minute to go through the fabric, the placing of the pattern pieces onto the fabric. Okay, that was a lot of talking, wasn't it? Now let's get on to the actual dress that we are going to make from the pattern that I showed you. I am going to be making this version here, which is it's got the bodice bit, it's got the straight bit, and it's got the scoopy neck. When I look around the back, it tells me what fabric I can use, and it also gives me the sizes, and it tells me how much fabric. I've cut out my pattern, and now I want to share, looking at the instructions, what you need to actually make sure that you need. So for version A, which is there, it tells me I need pattern piece 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now, these are the interfacings for around the arm and around the neck. I'm not going to do those because I don't like the extra fabric, which I'll share with you in due course. I'm going to show you another way that you can do it. Now, this comes in two versions. It can either be very long. So there's my front. I've already measured, one moment. Oh, I've already measured my bust, my waist, and my hips. And I know that I'm going to need a size 12 to fit me. Fortunately, everything's in the right place. But when you go into some of the pattern, and I'll just get that for you right now. Here we have it here. This is what I was meaning about for the cutting and the measurements. Now, these are the measurements that you need to take. So that's the bust, that's the waist, and that's the hips. I'm going to use 12, so this is version A here, right? So that's what I can add to here, I can add to here, or I can add to here. And I can also lengthen or shorten all of these places. So when you look over here, I can, if I need to add more, so that's just the basic patterns, but if I need to make more, see what they have done there. See how they've gone from a size 12 and they may have taken it out to a size 14 and then may, for across the hips, added a little bit more. Now that's the back. Now this is the front, so all is going well until I get to the bust, and then I might need to add more there, and then you transfer whatever you do on the back, you transfer to the front so that it actually is going to work. But have a look at the notes that I've given you and just brief yourself with what you are going to need to do. Also, I've cut everything out to match, and you'll also see that it's got the waist measurement there. So I've marked my waist measurement there, and I've also marked my waist measurement. So there's my waist there. There's my waistline there. So I know that when I attach that to there like so, remembering, and this here, I'm going to talk about these in a minute. So that's going to be fixed onto there like so, and that waist measurement there should actually correspond to the waist measurement through here. And what I suggest you do when you're starting out is to just mark that, so that the reason you do that is I'm also very short waisted, so I've got 8 inches from under my arm to my waist. You might have 10 inches from under your arm to your waist. On the pattern it will say shorten or lengthen wherever it says. So this is your cutting line for your waist. So there, if you need to add more, you can add more into that bit up above here. So if you need to add another inch, you add it into there and you add it into there. But I'm fingers crossed that you won't need to do that. The other thing that I wanted to do is, on this very basic dress, I like pockets. And the reason I like pockets is because, well, who doesn't like a pocket? It just makes life easier. So we're going to actually add pockets to this. So let's just get the fabric out, and I'm going to talk you through how to lay your dress pattern onto your fabric. One moment. After all of that talking, now we can actually get into it, and now it's all going to make sense. Perfect logical sense. In the back of the pattern, as I said, it will tell you for your size how much fabric you are going to need. Okay, you get that fabric cut, plus get anything else that they tell you that you need. Get rid of that. In the pattern pieces, they will show you a cutting out guide of where and how to place the fabric. Fabrics come usually 45 or 60 inches wide. The wider the fabric, the less fabric you will need. I always verge on getting just a little bit more because I never know what I'm going to do else to whatever I'm making. As I said, I'm going to put pockets onto this, and the designer didn't include enough fabric for that, so I needed to factor that in myself, and you don't need much for a pocket. Okay, they'll also tell you right sides together. This is the right side. This is the wrong side. So we have to flip the whole thing so that the right sides of the fabric are together, okay? Now let me just bring up this bit here, and normally you could just do that. Normally you can get away with just doing that, but we've got in our patterns we've got 3 pieces of pattern that have got to be, because we're going to get to this in a minute. See this little arrow here, this bit here? The designer tells you to place on the center fold. That is the center fold there, not this bit here. The reason they say to put it on the center fold is because it's one piece of pattern that when opened is going to give you from there, this side and this side. You're going to get 2 pieces, and you won't need to put a seam down the middle. Now, if I put that onto there like that, so if I put that onto there, and then I've got to get this onto here like that, this here tells me to do exactly the same. Center front to be placed on the fold. There is the arrow there. So if I do that, I'm going to have to allow extra to do a seam. And do I want to seam up the front? No, I don't. So if you are faced with this issue, this is what you do. With right sides together, let's just fold that over. Let's take that to there. And you need to make sure that this is very straight. You don't want any wrinkles or crinkles. Okay, so you can do this like this, right? Now, this is another thing that I do not like. Whoever cut this at the shop didn't cut it straight. Doesn't that just annoy you? So I'm not going to muck around getting it straight, because I know that this is straight and this is straight, and that matches up with my little fold underneath. So I know that it's straight. I also know that I've got 1 inch either side that comes down to nothing. They could have cut it straight. There's no... But anyway, right, now we can go to this bit here gets placed on the center fold. In the pattern, it will also tell you that you can lengthen it or shorten it. So as I said, in this here, let me just get my pattern. The dress that we're making here, there it is there, it's short. This is longer. So underneath here, which the bit that I've folded up, that was the long bit. Now the other thing that I did was I measured from my waist to achieve, and I'll just stand over here, to achieve the length that I wanted. So I didn't want it long, and I didn't want what the manufacturer had said either, which was still 2 inches too long for me. I like my things to the knee. It makes me look a little bit longer. These are just little things that you're going to have to sort of like, oh, there you are. You're going to have to factor in. Now, let's look. So I've cut it. I've folded up that extra bit of fabric there, extra bit of pattern there, because I don't want that. And now and this is the fiddliest bit. Once you've got over this and you've got it laid out perfectly, then you can pin and then you can cut. But this is where your garment is going to, it's going to determine whether you've got the perfect cut. The reason why, and I'll get to the lines in a minute. Okay, so this bit here is to be placed on the center fold. Got enough fabric, hopefully we've got enough fabric, and this is the front, and that has to be placed on the center fold. Now the other thing that I have to get out of here is a pocket. Now I've made a pocket here, and I want my pocket is going to be, I think it's 9 inches by 11 inches. I like a big pocket, and that there has to fit onto here somewhere, and I need 2 of those. I'm going to have to fiddle around in a moment and get that sorted out, but we won't worry about that. And then this pattern also says or tells you that you need facings. So it already told us that we needed those. So that there is the underarm. So that's an arm, that's the front of the arm, and that is the back of the arm. So they're going to join around like so. Oh no, that's the front, that's the back there. Here's the back. Hold on. Stop mucking around. There's the back and the front of your arms, and that is your back facing, and that is your neck facing. Now, as I said, I don't want to do that because I don't like this bit in here. Because see this bit here, you have this little bit over here, and it just makes it like you're always sort of like tucking it down. There's things you can do with it, but my way of doing it is much, much better. It's going to be like a t-shirt. So just making sure we've got all of the pieces that we need. It's now, and I've cut it out. So this one came 6, 8, 10, and 12. Now this is going to be placed onto there like so. Got to do this right. This is the big bit. This is the bit that you have to contend with. And also, that you'll see there's little notches. See those little things there? They're called notches. Those little notches are like signposts. And those little signposts, that little thing there is going to match up with that little thing there. You can't hardly see it, but if I put that there, see that little notch there? That little notch is going to match up with the little notch on this side. And that means that when you're putting them together, you don't have to second guess yourself. You just follow those little notches and they join up together. So the other thing and there's another one there, there's one in there. That one there is so that when we put the front armhole onto here, so that's going to go, let me just find the bit so that I can share that we've got that right. What is that? And each thing, so that's the armhole front facing, but which we're not going to use anyway. But when you lay that onto there, that little notch there is going to match in with that little notch there, and that little notch there at the front is going to match in with that little notch there. Oh, it all makes very logical sense once you get into it. Now, when it comes to pinning, I am super fussy. The other thing that I want to share with you is pins don't always say sharp. So as you're going through this, you might find that your pins get a bit blunt. So when I start anything that's really important, I use very nice new pins. But everything that you need to know is all on the pattern as you get going. So we'll just pin that to there, and then this bit here, make sure that that is on there. Now, let's not forget that, remember that the fabric wasn't straight at the top. Now, I took that right up to there, and look what's going to happen. See that there? It's not going to work. Oh, yes, it is. It is. I'm just on the edge. So here, let's just slip that down a wee bit so that we know that we are not going to get ourselves into trouble. Take that right over to the edge there. Pin that all down like so. It's a lot of work in making a dress, isn't there? But really there's not. It's just that I've been talking too much. Now make sure that that is on the fold, because if there's extra fabric at that stage, what is going to happen is it's going to be too big. So the fabric or the designer has done this perfectly for the size 12 pattern. I didn't have to add anything onto it. So if you have to, then as long as whatever you do on one side, you just make sure, it's just like doing flowers, isn't it? Whatever you do on one side, you just got to make sure that you did it on the other side. And I think that spending time now is actually the very best way forward. The more pins you put in, the better, because we don't want this to be moving. And when we cut, this has to be perfect. Now, as I said, I shortened this. So I've taken 6-inch, it was really long, so I could have cut it off, but I've just tucked it underneath. Also, I needed to make it 2 inches shorter. So I've actually taken the 2 inches off there, and that corresponds to there, so that when these all join together, this to there and this to there, once that's affixed to there, they're all going to be the same. Now, the next bit that we have to put into here are the ties at the back. Now, This here said place on the fold of the material. This here says to place with the arrow. Now let me just tell you what that says. Place on the straight grain. Now, this fabric stretches. So when it goes on, it's going to stretch around me. It doesn't stretch so much down. So it's only a little bit of stretch here as opposed to all of the stretch here. This has to go on the straight like so because we don't want it when we tie it up. We don't want it to be stretching too much. If it stretches too much, it might not hold as you want it. So that's another little thing to just bear in mind. This is where the tape measure comes in handy. Now I know that from there to there is straight. I know that that bit there is the straight edge because look, I can see the manufacturer when they did it has made that straight. Now when it comes to putting this on here, it's a matter of getting your tape measure and that little arrow there, taking that arrow over to the other side, and that is 40 centimeters or 15 5/8. So I'm going to pin that there like that. Now these have to be really straight, otherwise you're going to be on the skew width. So that there needs to go over to there, and it's exactly the 40 centimeters. So I'm going to pin that to there. And I'm going to pin that, but before I do anything else, I'm just going to check that that is straight. Yes, it is. And let me just see what happens here. Oh, you see, that's far too out of whack. That needs to come over there. So when you think you've got it straight, just check to make sure that you have got it straight, and check as you go before you cut anything, and just make sure that everything is nice and straight. The more pins you use, as I said, the better it's going to be. And also when you look into the pattern, it tells you that that is the pattern says that I need the tie. This is that I want to incorporate, and it also says cut 2. So that's why I've got the right size together. So when I put this all together, it will be all going the same way, because sometimes if you don't do it and you do it the wrong way, you might find when you come to put it up that the left's on the right and the right's on the left. And if this isn't nice and straight, you might find that if you don't have that all straight on the place on the fold, you might find that the whole thing twists over. It's worse with trousers. Now, I can't cut the pocket out yet, but hopefully I can find some extra fabric when I come into it. The other thing, as I said, we're going to do like this kind of a finish, and that involves 2 strips of fabric 2 inches wide by as long as you can get it, but we'll come to that again when we come back to sewing. Okay, now cutting is important. Measure, check, measure, cut, look, check, go back to this here, make sure that the way that they said to cut it out, which is these bits down here, you have fully briefed yourself on what the instructions say, because if you cut it out wrong, you're just going to waste it. Now, cutting round, oh, these scissors are just beautiful, right up to the edge, the cutting edge, which is that edge there, which you can hardly see because I've cut it off. Now this doesn't go straight up. What this does is it goes to the side like that, and then this we're going to cut right across to there like so. This is going to go around there like this. Now you'll notice we talked about that little notch. We'll come back to that little notch in just a minute. Straight down. Oh, see what I mean by making sure you've got it all neat and tidy. And then that goes across there like so. And now let's just take that off there, and let's just go back to those little notches. See how I've got those little notches there? There's little notches there, and there's none down that side. Now, sharp scissors. Okay, I've got my sharp scissors, getting rid of that. Now those little notches, I use a nice sharp pair of scissors, and I go in there and I cut that. And then where was the other one? The other one was there. cut into there, and don't make too big of a cut. The reason I say that is because even though we're going to have a 1/2 inch or a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, which is going to go all over the whole fabric, the whole garment, it's best to just do little notches that you can find. So that one there I didn't quite do properly, so I'm just going to do that again into there, so that we have all of it. See how that's got that nice little notch in there? See that there? We want those. That's our signpost to tell us where we're going. Now, the other thing I like to do is, and I'm just going to take this off very quickly. The other thing that I like to do is to mark my centre front. Now, this is my centre front, or this bit here. The reason we're going to do that at this stage, wait until I get a pen. Oh no, I'll use my chalk. Okay, the reason I'm going to mark that there, just a little bit of that marking down there, and a little bit here, when we come to join this onto there, I'm also going to do the same thing there, so that centre front is going to be the centre front of here, so that we're all neat and tidy. Right, give me a moment to cut all this out, and then I'll be back to share how it all works itself out. I'm sorry I've had so much talking, but you know, sometimes a lot of talking is necessary to convey the information so that you can walk away with a dress that has been made under 2 hours. Oh my goodness, hasn't it gone on and on? I hope you're still with me and I haven't made this too muddly mucky. It'll all make sense. Right, that is the front with the wee notches as recommended and instructed by the designer. So that's my front, which is that bit there. No darts, no mucking around. So that can go to there. Oh no, it can go to there. The next is this bit here, which is that bit there, complete with notches there and notches there, which are going to match in with the notches there. Now, do you see any notches? I don't see any notches. The reason we have no notches there is because I didn't put them on. So when it comes to bringing those together, how am I going to follow my signposts because they're not there? Make sure that you do everything as instructed. So now I'm going to have to lay that down there, and then I'm going to have to get the front. See what happens when you don't do what they tell you? So now I'm going to have to put that down there. I'm going to have to make sure that everything is just tickety-boo because I didn't do it, and there's the notches there. So as I did say, check before you go. I've marked my centre front there and the centre down the bottom there. If you're not quite sure, this is when, where's that pen? There it is. This is what I like to do. I like to go from there to there, and I would use the chalk and just make sure that that is neat and tidy there. I know I shouldn't be using pen, but I am. Okay, so that's your front. This is the front of the dress. Oh, goodness me, there it is there. So now I've got those notches are going to match up with those notches there, and there is my centre front. First thing is to, I don't know, we won't do that yet. So that's that. I needed 2 pockets, so I've got 2 pockets. 2 pockets ready to go, and that there is my back. And I've marked, did I do it? Yes, I did. There is my centre back there. Now, did I do it at the bottom? I know that this may seem like a lot of mucking around, but if you do this now, it means that it's going to be even easier. So those two are together. So there is the centre back of the hem at the base there. Now, I also said that we weren't going to be doing any facings. You need 2 strips of fabric, or a long strip of fabric. Now that is 2 inches wide. It is cut so that I've got the stretch, because this is going to stretch around the neck, and I've got a couple of meters more than, a couple of yards more than I will need for the frock. Now we can get into it. This is the best part. Okay, lay that down there, put those pockets to one side, put that to one side, put that to one side, get the instructions, and now we can start sewing. Everything that you need has been done. Okay, so we now need to stay stitch. Now stay stitching is around the front and the back. The reason we're going to do the stay stitching is it holds it in place. Now if I turn around, have a look at what happens with the dress that I'm wearing. Can you see that gaping bit there? See that there? See how that's just a bit gapy and it doesn't fit neat and tidy in against my neck? That happened because I did not stay stitch. It just will hold everything together, and it's just a tacking stitch that we will use. So when you look into here, it's got stay stitch the back, and it says here stay stitch neck edge of bodice front and back edge of back from cut edge in direction of arrows. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. You're going to go from there in the direction of the arrows. So you're going to start sewing there and you're going to go into that centre back. You're going to go there into the centre back. The reason you're going to do that is because if you go one round, it's still going to move. So by going one way and one way, it keeps all the fabric together, coming to that centre front in the back and the front. So there is the back, that's the scoop neck, that's the slightly lower neck, and that's the V-neck. We are doing the scoop neck here, and that's the A. The other thing that we're going to do once we've done that, then we're going to attach the bodice, this bit here, to the front. So I'm just going to whiz to the sewing machine and then I'll come back and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so the designer said we had to stay stitch around, and they also indicated that we had to go one way and then the other. I've just left that little join there. Now the other thing that they say is if they say 5/8 of an inch from that edge to there, that means 5/8 of an inch or half an inch. So when you see this, it goes in there because I didn't sew it straight, and this here and this here, there it's in too far. So that really should have come up to there, but I'm not going to worry about that at this stage because I'll unpick it and do it again. Now the next thing that they say is to attach the front bodice to the front skirt. So to do that, we did the centre front markings here, and we also did it on the skirt. What I like to do is to go there, matching that line there to that line there. The next thing that we have to do is we made those little notches. Remember that little notch? There's a wee notch there and there's a wee notch there. These need to match up. So put that to there, and then we need to go over to this side. Now, this here is not quite lining up with that bit there. That is because I didn't pin it and cut it before I unpinned it from the main fabric. So we're just going to have to fudge that a wee bit, and then that, because that edge was cut exactly as we were advised, that edge there matches up to that side seam there. It's all like magic, isn't it? And the more pins you use, the better it's going to be. And make sure that this edge and this edge match up, because if you don't, something's going to happen down the bottom. And where your hem should be nice and straight, it might go up a little bit. And that's the difference between something that's been made perfectly and something that's been roughly constructed. Okay, that's also the difference between something that looks professional and something that doesn't look professional. Okay, just pinning that across to there. That can go to there, and that can go to there. Now, just the pins are just a little bit pokey. We want all of that to be nice and flat. I'll go to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew that across there. Getting back to reiterating, if the designer says 5/8 of an inch seam, every single seam that you do has to be 5/8 of an inch all over the whole garment. I will just stitch this up and I'll be back to show you what it looks like. I've done it. Okay, so 5/8 of an inch from there to there. Now see how there's just a little bit puckery there? That happened because I didn't make sure that this was all flat before we started. However, we can fix that. The other thing I need to tell you is when you are sewing that seam across there, don't forget to backstitch there and backstitch at the other side. The reason why we do that is so that the seam doesn't, it's just a backstitch, and then it just holds that and that together so it doesn't unravel. Now, the manufacturer, okay, so we've done that. So this is what she said we had to do, or they said we had to do this to this, and then they're saying that we are to press that seam up. Now, I don't want to do that because I don't like all that weight up here. So what I do is, you need your sewing machine now, is I like to press that down and make sure. Now this is also terribly synthetic because it is a stretch knit. There is cotton in it, but just make sure that your iron isn't too hot. Now this has been set to cotton. I like to keep my things when I'm doing them to wool, especially with stuff like this, or you can take it down to your synthetics. Okay, now I just see how that's sort of kind of sticking there. That's sticking like that because it's too hot, and you don't want to have it too hot, because if it's too hot, it's going to just, it won't be very nice. It's going to stick to your fabric. So what I want to do is to just press that across there and get rid of as much of that gather as I can, like that. And then I like to turn it over. Yeah, that's better. Turn it over, and then we'll just do a little bit of ironing and steaming to make sure that that goes down. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do another seam across there to make that flat so that it stays flat, and I'm not having these bits that stick out and I'm having to do it myself. So I'll just go and do that now, and then I'll be back, and then we're up to joining the front to the back. But before we do that, remember how I said that I wanted to put some little side ties at the back to bring it in? I'm going to show you how to do that. Be back in a minute. Okay, welcome back to 101 Sewing. Let's make a dress in 2 hours. It's taken even longer than it should have, but there was a lot to talking. Okay, so what I said to do, like we pressed that down, and then I did another little seam across there to make sure that that sits flat, and it also gives another bit of detailing on the front. Now that is still sort of a little bit sticky out, but I'll be able to press that out. The other thing I need to share with you is all of these little threads, cut all of the threads off as you go, because we don't want to have lots and lots and lots of little threads hanging out. So if you do that now, then you are going to be in a great place. I now want to fix the ties to the side, and the manufacturer actually tells you how to do it, but they put theirs on at the waist. I didn't like that. I wanted mine up here by that seam. Now to do that, here's one of the ties, and all you need to do is stitch across there and then down the side like that. Once you've done that, before you turn it in, just cut those little corners there off so that you don't have big bulky corners. Now to do that, one moment, you need a knitting needle. So once you've done that, it's just, and you can have these wider if you wanted them to be wider. Now just turning that little bit in there, and then getting your needle, you just push it through like that. You can use pins to do this, but I always find that this is much easier. And then pull that down as you go. Use the sharp bit of your needle or a satay stick to just press out that edge. And because we clipped those edges, we now have a nice, this here is not too thick and hunky. And then you just pull that through like that, and you need two. Now I've made, I don't want that one, they're a bit too thick. I don't want those thick ones. I wanted these thin ones here. So there they are, that's all been turned in, that's been turned in. Now you need to get your pins. Because I wasn't thinking, I didn't have them, I need 2 pin cushions over here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fix that to there like that and just put a pin on that, and I'm pinning that so that it is directly over the top of both those seams. And I'm having this is coming in here because when we sew it through, oh there you are, we're going to bring that through the front, both of the side seams. So that, and I'm just going to put the pin that way. Make sure that this is on nice and straight, because if you don't put it on straight, you're going to have issues. Next thing is the pockets. All right, I have made my pockets. I just need to go and get the others for a minute. Wait a minute. I've lost my pockets. No, I haven't. Here's my pockets. Right. Here's my pockets. Now, as I said, and I'll just reiterate the size that I've got these at, these are 8 inches across by 10.5 inches long. Now, on this side here, I want the turnover here to be 1 inch. So what I've done is I've just 1 inch and about 1/4. So I've just measured that across, and to make sure that it is nice and straight, I'm just using, I'd use my chalk here, but never mind, I don't have my chalk. And then what you're going to do is you're going to do a 1/2 inch hem, and you're going to stitch those down all the way across to there. So starting at the top, stitch down to there. Then when you get to there, go to the other side and do the other side like this. Now, we go this way here. Now, the reason I'm going this way here is because the edge of my sewing machine is there, and I want this to go out away from my sewing machine. So pin all of these down here. Just use your eye. If you're not sure, you can always use your ruler to just measure to make sure. But as long as all of your your seams are the same, that'll be fantastic. Once you've sewn down there and down there, it's going to be a matter of sewing that up there to make that seam there, and then once that's done, it's going to be a matter of turning, I don't know, I'll just pretend that I've done it because I have already done it. Then turn that down back on itself on that line there, so that you're going to have a nice, this bit here needs to be nice and deep so that it doesn't pop up. That's how that's why I do it so much bigger. So that is double the length as what those side ones are. And that's what I'm talking about. So sewing down there, then sewing that one, then turning that up, then turning that back on itself, and stitching across to the other side like so, and sewing it from the top. So just like the width of the foot, or you could do that to 1/2 inch as well. Now, these are the 2 that I have done, so you can see what I mean by that. And you can still see those little bits there, but that doesn't matter. So I've got 2 exactly the same. Now, 2, where are you going to put these on your dress? Now, you need to do these now. And about now, what I do is I have a little guesstimate. You can have your pockets lower if you want them, or you can have them up high. What I do is I like to have my pocket from where this seam here is, that seam there, just a matter of going down to there. What is that measurement? That measurement is 7 inches. So it's just a matter of going up to here. So there's from there to there is 7 inches, taking that up to there. And I'm just going to put a pin there. And then I'm going to go just measure that again. Oh, it's so exciting. Now, I've actually, there's on the side here is just nearly 2 inches. So that's going to bring my pocket around here. So the more you come around it, you could actually sew it from there to there if you wanted your pockets in there. In fact, do we want to do that? No, we don't. I think we'll just leave it as it is. But if you do take it into the side, you won't need to do that hem there, because that can just stay on there like that, and that would take it to the side. But as my mother said, sometimes if you're a little bit hippie, if you've got your pockets at the side, it can make you look just a little bit too wide. Well, according to my mother. And she knew everything, so I don't know. So I've always just put them on the front. And to be perfectly honest, I only really have my pockets when I've got my mic on, or I've got my phone in it, or I just want to put my card into it. Okay, so from there to there is just nearly 7 inches. Let's come in the 2 inches there. Let's measure that. So that needs to come down to the 7 inches there. Let's just measure that. That's the same as that. And no, it's not. So I have to just bring that in just a little bit. And I'm just going to pin that to hold it like that at this stage. Then my little trick is I like to go to the bottom, because I know that this is straight, and I just like to do a wee measurement. So that's 8.5 inches there, and that's 8.5 inches there. So it's just a matter now of pinning that all the way around like so. That can go to there. This is, like, as I said about this little basic pattern, it's no seams, no darts, no zips, nothing. But from that basic shape or basic pattern, you can add the things that you want to add into it. Now, when it comes to doing the pinning of the pockets, I like to pin even more than I normally would. You could tack this on if you wanted to, but to make sure that it stays in place and doesn't pucker up, and that puckering up is like, the puckering up that I'm talking about is like this here. See that there? Now this could be because my tension in my sewing machine isn't right. And what I did was I used a 2.5 like stitch length. I really should have used something a little bit bigger. However, it doesn't matter. Right, so I'll just pin this on, and then I'll take it to the sewing machine and I'll sew it up, and then I'll be back and we'll join the front to the back, and then we'll do the side seams, and then we're up to finishing the neckline, and you're going to just be loving yourselves with what you've achieved. I will see you in a minute. We're getting there, we're getting there. Okay, so I've sewn on the side straps or belt. I've put on the pockets. Now it is time, looking at the manufacturer's instructions, which aren't on that page there. Now they tell us to join at the shoulder, the front to the back at the shoulder seams, and then they're telling us to stitch down the sides. So how do we know that we're going to be doing this properly? Let me just show you. This comes up to here. Remember we made that little notch there? That gets pinned onto there. Don't forget that when we stitch this down, we're using 5/8 of an inch or 1/2 an inch all over the garment. So just make sure that they match up. Take that over to there. Now, before I said to, just make sure that any little ties, loose ties that you've got, or loose threads at this stage, just cut all those off and cut those as you go. Now take that up to there like so. Pin that down there, and I always put the pin with the little bobbly bit towards the top of the seam, and that just means that when I'm stitching I can just take that out as I go. So let's measure down there. Now I won't stitch that yet because I'll do it all in one hit. Now we've got, where is it? We've got that tie there. Bring that tie into the inside, take this up to there at the armhole edge, and then put a pin in there, come down. Now that's where the belt is there, so, or the tie. So let's just come down to the tie and tie that now, and make sure when you're sewing, oh my goodness, make sure that they are right inside the cavity of the dress, because there's nothing worse than stitching over them down the seam, because then you've got to unstitch, and unstitching is such a big waste of time. So matching that to there like so, and coming all the way down. And about now what I like to do is to go to the end. Now this is when you're going to know whether you cut it straight, because if you didn't cut it straight, you're going to hate yourself. And already I can tell that I did not cut this straight, because look what's happening. Hold on, just go down here, finish this bit here off. Now make sure that they seam to seam come together, and see how that's a little bit too much. See that there? That's what happens when you don't cut it straight at the time of the initial cutting, and that can be a big nuisance. And all I can say now is, let's just hope that that matches up. Now, see how I've got this here all a wee bit gapey? Maybe I did cut it straight. Maybe I did. So about now, putting your weight there, just taking these up a bit, and you might find that it was straight. Oh, makes me feel so much better. Okay, so once you've done that side, go over to flip it over. There's your tie. Put your tie right into the inside. Then do exactly the same as what we did on the other side, matching up your notches. There's, see, I've got to come up there to that there. See, if I do it there, I'm not matching. Got to match. So just pull that up just a little bit there. More pins. Come down to here where you've got that. Make sure that that is lying flat when you get to there. Otherwise, you're going to hate yourself, because it's going to be all bulky at the side. Take that up to there like so. And then we know that that's straight. Go down to there, to the edge, to the hem. This is the hem along here. And then just sort of slowly, just sort of like bring that fabric down the sides there. And guess what? We're nearly there, because we've only got to do the hem, and we've got to do the neck and the arms, and we will be finished this dress. And I know that you'll be able to do it in 2 hours, but I think that we all need a bit of a cup of tea and a lie down. So now see what happened when I did that? See how I'm not matching? Make sure those notches match before you go too far into it. Now, sometimes you'll find that those notches don't meet up if you didn't have the right amount of seam length here as opposed to the other side. So just make sure, if you're going to use 1/2 inch or 5 inches of 5-inch seam allowance, make sure it's right from there to there, it's the same. Otherwise you're going to have to muck around with it. But anyway, I think that you get the picture and you fully understand what I'm talking about. The other thing that you might find when you are following the instructions, they may say to zigzag or overlock the edges. We're not using an overlocker, but if it did need to be overlocked, that is so that these seams don't fray. Well, this nylon, this knit, it won't fray. That's what's so beautiful. All right, I'll give you a wee spell and I'll go to the sewing machine and I'll be back and we'll turn it in and we'll see how clever we are. We're at the exciting bit and I just absolutely love it. There was one thing I wanted to share, and that is, if you want, I'll just go over here. I like a wee slit in the sides because this is my working girl's dress, but if you wanted a slit at this stage, you need to, before you do your side seam, you need to add that in. So what I've done is, just for those who want it, I've just decided or determined what your slits to be. 3, 4, 5 or 6 inches, not too much. We don't, a little bit of modesty here. So what I've done is I've just sewn from the top there all the way down to there, measured how big that was going to be, which is just 5.5 inches. Measure it over here to make sure that that's 5.5 inches. As long as they are nice and at the same length, you're ready to go. As I said, cut off all of those. And now, oops, hold on. Let me just take, okay, let's just turn it in. There we are. How's that? Simple little dress. It's not a black dress, but I didn't want a black dress because I've got 3 of these. So there we have it. So that we've still got to finish off the neck edge and we've got to finish off around here. And as I said, I'm going to do it this method, which is much, much neater. And we're going to do the same thing around the neck. Now, before I leave, I like to do the hem now. Now, I know that this is the right length for me because I measured it. Because I'm going to do the slits into here, to do the hem, it is just a matter of, I always start at the back, and so there's my centre back there. Wait till I get my pins. all over this frock, I have done 1/2 inch or 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to do exactly the same with my hem, and it's just a matter of pinning that up and then stitching that across. So I'll go across to there, and I'll take that to there like that, and make sure, and put your pins when you're doing them, put them so that they're going straight into the fabric. If you do them the other way, what'll happen is it sort of like skews a wee bit. Like if you went like that, it sort of kind of skews. So this just keeps everything all neat and tidy like so. We'll go across to there, and then when it comes to your slit here, it's just a matter of doing that there, just measuring it down there. I'm just going to put these sideways for now, going down to there like so, and then doing the other side, making sure that that's nice and flat. If you wanted this to sort of go in a wee bit, you could do that. But now those two seams there, just pin across there, down there like so, bring that to there like that, and then when we come to do this bit here, you can either cut that bit out if you wanted to, and then that just gets stitched into there, like bring that to there like that. You can just pull it out just a little bit as you go, and then you do this all the way around, and I would start there, coming out just so across from there to there, so down there, and then all across to the other side. But please pin, pin, pin before you get into it. Next time I see you, we're going to have finished the hem, and then with those 2 long strips of fabric that we were talking about, we're going to do, there you are. I don't know who I was talking to over there. I was talking to the sewing machine. So we'll do the hem, and then we'll do this, and then we will be finished, and you will just love yourself. Hope you've enjoyed this. It's been great fun so far. Let's have a cup of tea and a lie down. I'll see you again in a minute. And we are on the home straight with our how to make a dress in a couple of hours. Ready for it. The next thing you have to do is, and because we've already done it and we're following the instructions, we are now up to the neck facing and the arm facing. And I did mention that I've got a little trick up my sleeve to make this easier. But for those who want to follow the instructions, let us just walk through it. Get rid of all of that. Okay, so in the pattern you will see that you needed, and here it is over here, you also, and it tells you down here all the pieces that you need. You need number 5 or whatever it says on your pattern, which is the front facing, or the bit that goes under here, and the back facing, which is the bit that goes around the back. And it also tells you that you need to cut, how to cut it, and in our pattern it tells us to place on the fold. So there's the place on the fold instructions there, and there it is there, because there will be no join in the front and no join at the back, which makes it neat and tidy. So the only joins are going to be at the shoulder seams, or what will be turned over to go into the shoulder seams. You also need to do the same with the front arm facing and the back facing. Might I suggest when you do it, you just use a piece of chalk, or keep your pattern pieces together so that you can identify, because sometimes with some outfits the front and the back might be kind of almost the same, but the front might be just a little bit narrower or a little bit shorter, so just bear in mind. The other thing that the pattern tells you is you have to cut some interfacing. Now, interfacing is a marvelous thing. Interfacing actually gives strength to your fabric. Let me show you what it looks like. This is called iron-on interfacing. On one side, I need to put my glasses on, one side it is smooth, and on the other side it almost looks like fish scales. I think that that's the best word. So the fish scaly raised bit is the bit that you're going to put onto your fabric. And I'm going to show you how to do that because I think that it's important to know how to do this. So with my ironing board and with my iron, will it come across? Please come across. Oh no, what was I thinking? Yes, we can do this. We can do this. I can just go right to the end here. Okay, once you've got it cut, let me just take these pins off. Like so. Lay that out like so, like nice and flat. And then with the bit that goes with it, checking again that you've got the rough side, that goes down on top of the wrong side of your fabric, like so. And about now you have to be really neat as neat as you can, and make sure that it is completely almost like the mirror image of what is going to be the good side of your facing. Now the next thing I want to share is, before you hit it with an iron, get some of this stuff here. Parchment paper is your very best friend. Now, the reason I say this is, if you have ever made a mistake, which I have done lots of times because I forgot to check, if you put the scaly side or the fish scaly or the sticky side onto the face of your iron, you are going to hate yourself so much because it's very difficult to get it off. So I have to come all the way to here now. Once you've got it, take the steam off your iron, and it is just a matter of applying. I've got to go all the way here now because I forgot to get the extension cord. Just down on top of that until the whole thing fuses onto the wrong side of the facing. Right, just keep going until that it fixed. Let me put that down there. And then if you're not sure, just lift off your paper and just go around, and if it's not still stuck, like it isn't quite stuck, see how it's not quite stuck there? Right, well that's okay. You just go back, my iron, pull it down to here, and then just keep going. And the other thing I need to tell you is, please do not make your iron too hot, because sometimes it can melt onto that fabric and then you've just got to mess it and it's still not really achieving what you wanted it to achieve. And as I said, take your steam off, and I didn't because I wasn't thinking. However, that's all right because I know that once you've done this, you'll be fine. All right, getting rid of that because it is septic and I've already done one. So here's one that's been done here, and I know that that's right. And you'll notice how I put that 5 on there. I always like to, as I said, I like to just make sure I know exactly where I'm going, and there's my 6. Now, with right sides together, the pattern tells you exactly what to do. Remember we did those little notches there? That little notch goes up to there, and remember that we've got wrong sides together, because when we do it, we're going to turn it in the other way. Okay, so pin, 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 and make sure that those wee notches all meet neatly like a jigsaw puzzle, and then that goes up to there like so, and then pinning that. Now this is the other thing I wanted to tell you, is when you're doing it, make sure that you do cut it exactly and it does join properly, because if this is over a little bit, oh, you're going to hate yourself. Okay, so then it's over to the sewing machine and it's sewing the same width of seam as you've done everywhere else. So if it's 5/8 or ½ an inch, make sure everything is ½ an inch so that it joins. So that gets sewn, that gets sewn, and then once you've done that, and I'll just go to this one here because I'm speeding up the process here, then you need to, need the oven again, the iron again. Oh, goodness me. Oh, there's a lot involved in here. Right, when you get to here, the next thing to do is to flatten that seam out, flatten that, so that it's all neat and tidy, and I'm just going to give that just a little wee steam. And with some fabrics, you'll find that it doesn't sit nice and flat, but as long as you've got this here's neat and tidy, see how it's just all keeps popping up like that? Well, that's just what happens with some fabrics, but as long as you know that you have pressed that up, that's just going to mean that it's going to sit nice and flat when we don't have to do ironing anymore, so that I don't have to muck around with that. Get rid of that. And I'll get rid of that. So now we have to fix this around the neck. So this is what I do. When we were cutting it out, remember we made a mark where the centre back was. So there's your centre back. I'm just going to put a pin in there. And there is your centre front where I've done my little mark there. So I'm going to put a pin in there so that I know that I'm at my centre front. On here, you should also have done the centre front. So there's the centre front there. When I look at this, there's the centre back there. It's just a matter of, with right sides together, bringing that mark there to the centre, bringing it up to there, bringing it to the back, and then gently easing and pinning the front neck facing to the front of your frock and to the back. Now, once you and the other thing I want to remember to tell you is, remember how we did the stay stitching on the back across here, and we did it around the front here? That is to sort of give a little bit more stability, to keep everything all nice and neat. Because if you don't do that, when you attach this, what will happen is it could pull out of place. If you wanted to go one step even further, once you have joined your shoulder seams together, you could just do a nice running stitch, exactly the same as we did on the front, around the neck, just to keep it nice and stable. So that is one way that you can do it. And it's just a matter, once you've sewn it around, it's just a matter of, then I'll show you the next stage in a minute. I personally don't like this. Now, the reason I don't like it is, and I'm going to turn around and let you have a look. See how it's just a little bit gapey at the back there? Now, I did everything that the designer and the manufacturer and the instructions said to do. It doesn't matter how often I've done these, it always, and I'm not really a professional sewer, I'm just a home sewer that makes for me. So what I have discovered over the years, which is a much better way of doing it than mucking around doing all of this, is I do what they do on t-shirts, which is what I've done in here. And it might stick out, it does stick out just a little bit, but I have done this on purpose to show you what I mean by this should really be in under there like that. But I quite like it with that little t-shirty bit on there, just a little bit more covering, you know. So this is what I do. I get a piece of fabric that I cut on the stretchiest side of the fabric. Remember when we were laying it out, we laid everything with the stretch going this way. That's because when we put it onto the body, it goes with the body, because we don't want that stretch going down, because if we did that, the whole thing would stretch down. We want it to go around the body. So I have discovered that the best in regard to doing this sort of t-shirty sort of finishing around the arms and the neck is about 2 inches, and just cut a big long strip. Now, this might be just a little bit fiddly, but it is actually I like this the best way. Now, you're going to need 1/2 inch or 5/8 of an inch. So put that down onto there. That's at the centre back, and I've looped it over about 5/8 of an inch, because that's where I'm going to join it. Then what I do is I go to get the shoulder there, and I get my material, and I just kind of stretch it out just a little bit like that, so that when I join that on, I'm going to have something that is nice and firm, which I'll share in a minute. So just go all the way around until you get this to the right length. You might find that you've got not enough or too much. If you've got not enough, start again until you get it round so that you've actually got surplus at the other end. Once you have achieved how much you need, bring it together like so. As I said, 5/8 of an inch is the seam allowance that we're going to need for going around our neck. Stitch across there, and then what you need to do is to press that out, okay? Now, this hopefully will go around the neck. Now, with the mat, and here's one that I've already done actually, so that was my arm actually. Oops, sorry, made a mistake. So that was the strip that I used. Now, once you've done that, where did I put it? Here it is. Here's one that I've prepared earlier. Now, what I love about this dress is I can do whatever I want. I can either have pockets, leather pockets, and I showed you, we did do the pockets on the other one. So I could have either fabric pockets, like so, or I can change it up. I can either have this around the neck so that it all matches, or, this is the exciting part, I love this, or I can change it up. And that's what I love about this. And I just think that with the black pockets and this around the neck, it's going to look really cool and groovy. Okay, so let's just go back and let's just re-establish how to put something like this on. Okay, so you've got your front marking, you've got your back marking. That back marking is very important. I hope you're up to speed with me and I haven't gone to left or right and confuse you, because I'm not here to confuse you. I'm just trying to show you how to do it quick and easy. Okay, so there is my front, there is my back. Now what I like to do is to get the front and the back together, and then going around to here, get the middle between the center, front and back, and the sides. When we did it with, where is it? Oh my goodness. When we did it with this, the manufacturer already told us that these would be to join up with the shoulder seam. Well, we're not doing that. What we need to do is to make sure that when we stick this on, everything all is even around the neck. So you don't want, if we did it without doing that and doing the marking, what you'd find is this would be gapy, probably gapy here, and it might not fit round the back. So once you've done that, it's just a matter of finding your centre back. There it is there, with right sides together, going to the centre back, put that onto there like so, and pin there. And because I've got that little opening seam there, I like to pin it on there as well. Now go around to the next mark and see how much surplus material I've got on the dress. See how much tautness I can achieve there just by pulling that together. That's going to mean, as I said, it's going to sit nicely against the body. So pin that to there. Now go around, go back to the centre back and go back to that side mark there on the side and pin that like so. And then this is a bit tricky here because you just got to turn that in the right way so that and then just check there, take that to the centre front, do another pin mark into there like so. Like so, and then it's just a matter. See, now I'm just wondering whether I've got enough in here. Yes, I think I have. So going to there, bringing that to there, pin, 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 pin is your best friend, and then go around. See that there? See how much I've got just that extra bit there, so that when I pull that, that'll be just enough. I wish I could give you the formula for exactly how long you would need to cut it, but it will depend on how big it is around your neck or how small it is. So the bigger around the neck, the more fabric, the smaller, the less you'll need. So it's just a matter of just trial and error at this stage. And then from the side, just give that a wee pull, and then just take your fingers into there and get that and pin that, and then let's go around to here, and we've got from there to there, and then just give that just a little pull to there, and then you might need to just check that to make sure that you've got enough pull in both of them. Put a pin in there. Now where you've got your shoulder seams like that, you know, that those what I also like to do is when I did my stay stitching, I actually stay stitched over that so that it was nice and flat. Another pin there, and then just go round again and do more stitching to make sure that that is all evenly. It's like gathering. Just make sure all your gathers are right. That goes into there, and I do spend quite a bit of time doing this just to make sure that I'd rather check now, make sure that everything is all right. Use 10,000 million pins, exaggerating of course, just to make sure that all of my areas are all of my facing is evenly distributed around the exterior of around that neck. Okay, so once you've done that and you're quite happy with it, go to the machine and stitch it on, which I'm going to do, and then we're almost finished. Okay, one moment. Okay, once it's on, before you start stitching, the other thing I forgot to share is make sure that when you're stitching, stitch from the dress side. So you're stitching this side, not on top of that, because what you'll find sometimes is, if this is a bit too stretchy and this is less stretchy, then this will bulk up and it'll stretch and it'll creep and arch, so don't do it. Okay, so once you get to that stage or this stage, it is now a matter of clipping the seam. Now by that, or the excess trim here, by that what I mean is and I'll cut from this side so that you can see. Okay, this is all it's going to be a bit messy for a minute. Oh, there's a pin. Take all pins out as you go, don't sew over them. Okay, so there is in here you can see the stay stitching, which I've tried to stitch on. That was the first lot of stitching, and then I have stitched as close as I can to that. I've gone off a wee bit, but well, I'm not perfect, am I? Okay, now clipping the seams means that you go in there very gently and clip all the way around that neck edge and that seam, as close to the seam, but not so close that if you cut it too near, it would clip through the sewing. Okay, so just round to there, round to there. Now that's my centre front, so I've gone that way, and now I'm going to go this way, like so. And the reason we're going to do this is because this makes the seam sit neat and tidy. Oh look, I really went over there, but maybe I didn't do that properly to start with. That into there, and then take that around to there. This is the difference between looking really professional and sitting nice and flat. That's what this is all about. Okay, now go back to the shoulder seams and see how we've got 1, 2, 3 layers of material. What I like to do is to clip that and then clip that so that you don't have too much unnecessary fabric. And if you wanted to, you could go around and you could cut that a wee bit further off too, but I'm not going to bother doing that. Okay, so from there, going back to, where's my back? Here's my back. And then it's just a matter of pushing that up and then bringing that down and over. So I'm going to do it. I'm just going to cut a little bit of that fabric off. In fact, I'm going to cut a couple of mils off. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I don't want all of that thick excess to requirement fabric. And this is what they kind of do with t-shirts and things. You know how easy it is to wear a t-shirt? Well, it's easy to wear a t-shirt because of how they do it. See all that fabric there? We didn't need any of that fabric. And the other thing I need to tell you is just make sure that you've got this right before you launch into doing this. If you've got any bits that are caught up or it's not going to be tight enough, just make sure that you've checked that before you go. And I cannot reiterate or stress enough about how marvellous it is to have very sharp scissors. Now I could have just done this lying flat, but I didn't, but that's okay. But I'm just showing you that you can do it. And please, to all of those professionals, so usually I just do it like this and I can just whiz around. Anyway, right, so once you've done that, cleaning as you go, neat and tidy, neat and tidy. Okay, so that was my centre back there. Now it's just a matter of bringing that over about 1/2 inch all the way around. So I go to there first and then I go around to the front. Honestly, this is the most fiddliest bit. So you're just going to turn that down to the same all the way around your garment. And I'm just going to do this on quick, show you what it's like. And then as you're doing it, just pull up, just see how that's joined to the fabric there. Just pull that up just a little bit to bring it up and over to the other side. And then when I get to here, this is when I start bringing my pins down so that they go down into the fabric so that everything is just all nicely caught. Now that there just needs to come a wee bit further. Oh, I just love this. We're nearly at the end and it's just so good. I love it. Okay, so once you've done that, it's just a matter of going to your sewing machine and this, hold on, I'll just do this bit here so that it's done, just to make sure that if you do it all now, spending time now means that you're going to have, see that there where it's a bit too sort of like not quite, it's all a bit sort of hunked up in there. Just pull that out so that you can get that neat and tidy. I'm going to leave that there, that pin in there, but what I am going to do is I'm just going to put a pin in on either side, and now I can take that out because I know that it's going to sit flat. And then there's just this little bit around here, pulling that, bringing that down into there. Aren't you just feeling so excited that we're all able to make a dress in a couple of hours? And I'm sorry if you've had to sit through and watch this, but the great thing is with having the tutorial, you can stop and start it, and then when you get to that bit, you can come back to it. I love that. Okay, so let me just share what we've done. Making sure that all of this is the same length and that you have at least that much, or like less than an eighth of an inch. I don't know inches. I don't know inches very much now, but as long as you've got a good turnover on the other side, because now what you're going to do is start. I always like to start at the back, and with right sides, put that underneath the sewing machine and gently, carefully sew between, so that if I pull that now, I'm just going to pull that there and hopefully, can you see that? Can we see that little line there? That little bit just right there, see that there? Just between that fabric and that fabric, as close to that seam as you can, you're going to stitch all the way around. Once you have done that, you're going to do the same around the neck, and take your time, and in no time at all you will have a finished article or garment. And what I really love about the leather and the black there, I was going to put this leather around the neck, but the reason I didn't do that is because I don't actually like that feel on my skin, so that's why I've just used that black, the knit fabric around there. But you know what? Hey, it looks good to me. And I like it with the little slit at the side there. But anyway, the next thing I want to do is to just share the one that I've already done to show you how that is looking. So see how neat that is around there and how neat that is around there. Once you've done this, it's just a matter of taking it to the iron and then giving that a really lovely press. A dress in less, well, 2 hours. Now, the one last thing I want to share, if you decided that you wanted to put the leather pockets on, these are the pockets that we did, the fabric onto the fabric, really easy. If you're going to put anything like leather or vinyl onto fabric and put it through your sewing machine, it will not work because the feeder dog and the tension, you can't get it right. This, and I will show you, if there's enough information, enough requests, I'll show you how to do it. This is called a walking foot. This is the most marvelous thing. You can stitch leather or suede or vinyl or whatever onto fabric with the aid of one of these, and these are well worth investing in if that's where you want to take your sewing. They are fantastic. But there are lots of people out there that are doing tutorials on how these work, but if you get stuck, just give us a call. So I hope that the 2-hour dress has been, and the sewing skills that were necessary have been of use to you. Good luck and go forth, and remember, slowly, slowly, neat, neat, pin, pin, measure, measure, mark, mark, and you won't go wrong. I will see you all again another day. Bye for now.